from TV's hit show.
I was on with that one.
The beardless brother from the Duck Dynasty clan.
What about if I did this? And they're like, oh, that's more like it, because they get that vision up. They can tell I belong, to the family.
We'll talk with Alan Robertson.
We saw more of the world's problems in a duck blind than any other place.
On today's 700 Club.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. Can you believe it? The top show on cable with 10 million viewers is...
It's got to be.
It is.
Duck Dynasty.
The same.
Yeah. I was listening to my husband and my son howling from the living room.
Oh, they were my daughter, Gordon's wife. They taped about 3 of those things, and we're out in my place in the mountains, and they said, "Well, can you join us for a season of Duck Dynasty?"
All in one night.
She was convulsed with laughter. Whatever those guys do, I don't care if they just say it's raining outside. They just, it's so funny. Anyhow, we got one of them here with us. One of the Dynasty people is going to. Huh?
The new one. He's the new addition.
The one without the beard.
He's not a new addition to the family.
He's the preacher. Okay. Well, something else in the news that's not too pleasant. The news media. Surprise, surprise. They're not telling the truth about what's going on in Egypt. At least that's what the Egyptians say themselves.
They say the coverage is biased in favor of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they believe President Obama supports the Brotherhood as well. Mark Martin has the story.
Don't support terrorists. Don't support terrorists. Please, Mr. Obama, I voted for you. Don't support terrorists.
Hala Salem was one of hundreds of protesters in Washington, D.C. Thursday, demanding President Obama stop supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. They first gathered in front of the White House.
He's asking us, the Egyptians, to leave the terrorists in Egypt alone, to kill us, to kill our people. It's not going to happen.
Christians and Muslims gathered together in opposition against the Brotherhood.
I'm a Muslim. It's not a Christian thing. It's an Egyptian thing.
They are terrorists. They have done so many problems in Egypt.
There are new concerns the old regime is making a comeback as former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak was released from prison and flown to a military hospital. He is under house arrest. But protesters here say Mubarak wasn't as bad as ousted President Mohamed Morsi.
He's not really a good guy, but he's not at least a terrorist. But Mohamed Morsi is a terrorist. He belongs to the Muslim Brotherhood.
The protesters say the Egyptian military is needed to keep order.
He protects us from a Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood kill us, kill all Christian people.
Those at the rally say the Brotherhood has burned dozens of Christian churches, businesses, and more.
For the Coptic Christians, they burned their houses.
They're targeting them.
They're targeting them.
And these protesters are also angered by the coverage of the situation in Egypt by Western media. They rallied against the Washington Post, accusing both the newspaper and President Obama of being biased in favor of the Muslim Brotherhood.
So Obama administration helps the Brotherhood right now in Egypt. That's not right. That has a lot of question marks. Why? Why?
Mark Martin, CBN News.
Listen to the Egyptians, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting it right. And we understand now the toll of churches that have been burned by the Brotherhood supporters. Numbers close to 100. It's not just 60 now. It's up to 100. And it's shocking what they're doing. And the administration says, well, we're going to withdraw support from Egypt. I mean, come off it. Let's take a stand and recognize who the enemies are and who our friends are. And the friends just right now happen to be the Egyptian military, not the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, President Obama is speaking out on what the United States might do in Syria. Wow, he's finally maybe coming off the fence. Lee Webb has that story.
Well, I'm not sure about that yet, Pat, but President Obama is calling the possible use of chemical weapons in Syria a, quote, big event of grave concern. But the president went on to say he would seek international support before taking any large-scale action. He told CNN the U.S. is still looking for conclusive evidence that Syria did use chemical weapons this week. The president has come under fierce criticism for his lack of action in Syria. Some critics, like Arizona Senator John McCain, say America's credibility has been damaged because President Obama has not taken more forceful action to stop the violence there. But the president says the U.S. should not get involved everywhere immediately. An 88-year-old World War II veteran was savagely beaten in Spokane, Washington Wednesday. Delbert Belton later died of his injuries in a hospital. Police are looking for 2 African-American teenagers in connection to the killing. They're not certain of a motive, but it was the second random killing this week to make national headlines. 3 teenagers were arrested for shooting college baseball star Christopher Lane in Oklahoma, and apparently they were going to shoot another teenager, but his father saw them and called police. And he later said one problem the suspects had was they did not have proper fathers in their lives. Pat?
We're having a tremendous amount of this black on white violence. And I have a feeling that instead of bringing racial harmony, having an African-American president has exacerbated the problem. He seems to be wanting to bring division among people instead of bringing them together. He is one of the most divisive leaders this country has ever had. And it just seems he wants to rub the edges raw every chance he gets to talk about the rich or talk about the privileged or to talk about the impoverished middle class or the blacks and whites and so forth. It's always something there to stir up controversy. Maybe when you're running for office and you're campaigning, that's the way you go after your opponent. But now, when you're elected, you are president of everybody, and your job is to bring the nation together and have it move forward. That's what we want a president to do. Lee?
The New Mexico Supreme Court has ruled against a Christian photographer who refused to shoot a same-sex wedding because of her religious beliefs. In a unanimous decision, the court said the refusal violated the state's Human Rights Act. It rejected arguments that the law violated the photographer's free exercise of religion. But Jordan Lawrence of the Alliance Defending Freedom said the ruling is a chilling and unprecedented attack on freedom. Lawrence says they may appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. A Rasmussen poll recently found that 85% think a Christian photographer has the right to say no to shooting a gay wedding. The 4th season of the cable TV reality show Duck Dynasty is setting records in the ratings. The program has captivated viewers with its plain talk and down-home humor. And it turns out the patriarch of the family, Phil Robertson, is just as outspoken away from the program. He gave a speech 3 years ago and talked about his views on abortion.
And we debate whether it's some woman has the right to tear you out of there a piece at a time? Come on! You have a God-given right to live, but of all places inside your mother? What in the world happened to us?
Great question. Phil Robertson went on to say that America needs more George Washingtons, Thomas Jeffersons, and Andrew Jacksons, and a God-given right to live, to be free, and to pursue happiness. Pat?
Well, I'm telling you, this branch of the Robertson family is really they're setting the world on fire. I don't know whether there's any relation or not, but we all go back to Robert the Bruce. I think that's where that thing came from. And when we trace it back, my side of the family, we wound up at a guy called Duncan the Fat. So that's where the Robertsons come from.
Don't worry, that will go no further than here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Don't breathe a word of it. Duncan the Fat. Okay, Terry.
Well, coming up, he may be clean-shaven, but he's still a duck commander.
It's like all this adrenaline surge, and everybody's up, pow, 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 boom, 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 boom. Then we see what we got, and then Si starts claiming everybody's duck.
We'll talk with Alan Robertson after this.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Monday. Threatened with jail.
2 consecutive 6-month terms in prison.
And you'll never believe why. And then, a cop who fought her way to the top.
Failure was not going to be an option.
And made a couple of enemies along the way.
And they used that against me.
Plus, financial guru Clark Howard shares how to live large for the long haul. Monday on the 700 Club.
Well, if you're in television as we are, you realize that people live and die on ratings. If they don't have good ratings, they don't stay on the air. If they have good ratings, they make a lot of money and do well. And producers would literally kill for the ratings that are coming down on this show called Duck Dynasty. And maybe some of you haven't watched it, but it is hilarious. And this is a show about a Louisiana family that makes duck calls for a living, as they claim to be millionaire rednecks. But this show, the season began with monstrous ratings, but you may not have noticed a beardless brother who doesn't look at all like his brothers and sisters. His name is Alan Robertson, and he's a pastor. He sees the show and the duck calling business as his new ministry. Jennifer Wishon was down in West Monroe, Louisiana, to talk to this member of the fabled Duck Dynasty clan.
Today, Duck Commander, the family business made famous by hit reality show Duck Dynasty, is more of an empire.
Phil says, do not hunt, do not sell one until you'll hunt with it. So that's what we do.
Would you hunt with that one?
I would hunt with that one.
But in the beginning,
But that was the original Duck Commander shed.
Phil Robertson made each duck call right here in the family's backwoods, Louisiana backyard. And as the oldest son, Alan served as one of his dad's first employees.
So we made everything in there, and then there used to be an old bandsaw out back, and I used to, cut calls in half, and I was little, I was 12 years old. There was a saw. I mean, OSHA would, we didn't know who OSHA was in those days. See these nails here? We used to hang duck calls on these nails.
Although he's the oldest brother, fans of Duck Dynasty probably didn't know he existed until now.
Your best man is going to give you the ring. So
Alan debuted on the show's season 4 premiere to a record-breaking audience. Nearly 12 million people watched, making it the largest audience ever for a nonfiction show on cable. Alan jokes he's responsible for the ratings, but in the Robertson family, all glory goes to God.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal.
The day after the record-breaking premiere, 30 Duck Commander employees voluntarily showed up for work an hour early to take part in a weekly devotion led by Alan, including Duck Dynasty funny man John Godwin.
Thank you so much for the cross and your grace and your mercy.
Alan preached about God's love.
Without love, we're in serious trouble, right?
It's something he knows well. Before rejoining Duck Commander a year ago, Alan pastored this church for more than 20 years. But as a young man, he never dreamed he'd become a minister.
So my high school years were just terrible, and it was all secret life, running around, drinking and cutting up. So I was one of those, the worst possible place. I was hiding in plain sight. I was in the church, but I wasn't a Christian, and I wasn't living for Christ.
He left home for New Orleans, where he found more trouble. Trouble so bad, it scared him straight. He returned home to West Monroe and made a commitment to Christ. His father, Phil, baptized him in this river behind their house, a body of water Allen estimates the Robertson men have used to baptize at least 1,000 others. Now most weekends, he and his dad travel the country together, preaching the gospel.
I call us, the feather in the sledgehammer. I come in and kind of get people laughing. I get their tickle bone, because I'm kind of a humor guy. And then Dad comes in with a sledgehammer, boom. This is what God has done for you. This is what our nation needs, boom, boom, boom.
At Duck Commander headquarters, Allen shares an office with his wife, Lisa, who also works for the business. The couple's daughters and their husbands do too. Each day, hundreds of requests come in for a family member to speak or appear at an event.
We're on the telephone. We're working schedules.
They also greet fans.
Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3.
This couple drove in from California. And now that Allen and Lisa will be appearing on Duck Dynasty, they can expect a lot more attention.
They know what they're getting into because they've seen it with the brothers. But I think they are still going to be shocked whenever everywhere they go, people know who they are.
Allen's just a natural fit anyway. He's such a people person, keep us grounded and keep everybody else grounded.
I really feel like God has prepared us for such a moment as this. And when America needs some family to say, hey, we can make mistakes, we can come from nothing, we can have all these things now, but ultimately none of it matters except that we're saved. We're going to be in heaven forever with Christ.
And Kay always says, too, that she said that whenever she prays, she says, if the money or the fame or anything ever takes us away from Christ, then take it all away and leave us with nothing, because when we're at nothing, we've got everything with Christ.
Allen's brothers have made unruly facial hair fashionable.
One writer said that you were an overplucked duck.
Yeah. I get all kind of analogies,
Yeah, so I guess, will we see a beard on Allen, or is this the PR face of Duck Commander?
Yeah, well, that's what I figure. I figure you need to know what they look like underneath. So a lot of times I'll go out in a crowd and I'll say, what about if I did this? And they're like, oh, that's more like it, because they get that vision up. They can tell I belong, to the family. I don't want to get stuck with that look. Are you kidding me?
And I like it better like this.
Yeah.
When there's things crawling out of your beard, or, whenever you've got food left from lunch or dinner, I don't know, that just kind of grosses me out.
But don't be fooled by Allen's smooth face. He loves the outdoors as much as his rugged-looking brothers. Deep in the Robertsons' 1,000 acres of hunting land, he couldn't wait to show us one of the family's nearly 80 duck blinds.
We saw more of the world's problems in a duck blind than any other place.
Unlike the solitude of deer hunting, Allen likes hunting ducks because he gets to cut up while catching his dinner.
And it's like all this adrenaline surge, and everybody's up and pow, 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 boom, 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 boom. Then we see what we got, and then Si starts claiming everybody's ducks.
Both Allen and Lisa took a leap of faith leaving their church, but they see their new role with the popular family business and reality show as a new worldwide ministry.
To have a great church is good, but there is people out there that's not ever going to darken the doors that we have here. And they may not ever darken the doors of any church building. And so if we can give them a little taste of Christianity, a little taste of God, but in a fun way, to tell them that just because you are a Christian does not mean that you can't have loads of fun and laugh all the time.
Enjoy life.
And enjoy what God's given you.
Because, we're all fairly young. If God gives us a lot more years on the earth, who knows, where we're going to go from there in terms of what we're able to do.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, West Monroe, Louisiana.
What an amazing family. The thing of it is, people are hungry for family relationships. There's so many fractured homes, and to see a grandfather, fathers, mothers, daughters, all living together, serving the Lord. The second thing, people are looking for faith. They want reality. So, hey, it's amazing. From TV, one would never have guessed it, but they have hit on a chord, and I congratulate the Duck Dynasty. Terry.
Well, up next, two strangers brought together by one voice. Find out how their chance meeting led to a miracle. Plus, we're going to be praying for you and for your needs, so don't go away.
Jack and I are having the time of our lives. The kids are on their own, and now we're back in control of our time and the way we spend our money.
That's why Consumer Cellular is the perfect cell phone company for us. We get great service, and compared to our old plan, we're saving a ton every month.
Consumer Cellular is the wireless provider for people who want affordable service without the contracts.
Listen, I don't think I'm cheap. I only
want to pay for what I need.
So what do you pay a month for Consumer Cellular?
My bill can be as low as $10, $15 a month.
Wow. But we can change our plan anytime. So even those months we use it a lot, we're always getting the best price.
Try Consumer Cellular risk-free for 30 days with free activation, a $35 value, and free shipping. Consumer Cellular is the exclusive wireless provider for AARP members. Ask about your special discounts.
Call Consumer Cellular at 1-800-730-5103. Go online to consumercellulartv.com or visit a Sears store today.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
John D. was a college student who nearly died on his way back to school. Drew Kaiser was a musician coming home from a conference. The two had never seen each other before until a chance meeting changed both their lives.
My name is John. I'm from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and I've been living in Georgia for about 10 years now. I don't remember nothing about the accident. I just remember waking up in the hospital. I was heading back to campus. I go to school at Valdosta State University. It was raining. It was around 3 in the morning. I remember talking to my friends, and I fell asleep. The car hydroplaned. Next thing I know, I woke up in the Shepherd Center. When I woke up in the hospital, everything felt so unreal. My mother talked to me, and she told me that I've been unconscious for a full day. I've broken my left hand, and then I've also fractured my neck. The doctor really made it clear that I was never going to walk.
I woke up just like a normal day. It was a normal day for me, other than throughout the day I was going to go to a conference. I didn't feel anything special. I didn't feel anything new. All day throughout the conference, the phrase "people get out of wheelchairs," wheelchair, 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 seemed most evident to me. Seemed like the prominent thing that I got from God that day. So all day I was looking for someone in a wheelchair. At the mall, though, I didn't find anyone. So I went across the street to another shopping center. I end up on the second floor and I meet a guy in a wheelchair. I just boldly approach him, I pray for him. We don't see anything instant happen right away. I go down, leaving the store now, and find another lady in a wheelchair on the way out. Same thing, boldly approach her, pray for her, nothing tangible right in the moment happens. I was discouraged now after seemingly failing twice, but knew that there was something on, there's a breath, a wind on that word about wheelchairs. And right then, a group of people come down, and out of my right eye, attention was caught, and there's 4 more people in a wheelchair. The entire store was run by people in wheelchairs. There's a local spinal center in Atlanta that deals specifically with just injuries to your neck or your back. And they were there to test the accessibility of that store.
We were supposed to do some practice shopping in a wheelchair. And then I was with my sister, and then we were riding around in the shoe aisle.
I got scared, and I got, like, this fear came over me, and I ducked into another aisle. Ended up in a shoe aisle, trying to gain courage, gain confidence. I'm trying to pump myself up. And that's when I noticed the third guy that I saw in a wheelchair. He comes around the corner. He had a neck brace on and a back brace on. His legs were strapped to the wheelchair. No movement at the time in his body. Said he had a hard time feeling his legs. And I just asked him, I was like, man, do you mind if I pray for you? I know that God heals and God gets people out of wheelchairs. I would love the opportunity to pray for you.
I was like, well, sure, go ahead. And as he prayed, I could feel my spine move. Like it feels like an inner deep tissue massage where it's the bone itself being in motion and moving and shifting and turning, and it felt hot. He touched my knee, both of my knees, and then I could feel the heat. That was a different feeling. It's out of this world.
We take the straps off his legs in case there was a breakthrough to be able to test it, and one of his legs goes up after a couple minutes. We think maybe it's a muscle spasm. We kind of try to reason it out logically in the natural. And then we asked to do it again, and now he's voluntarily moving his leg on his own power.
Before that, all I could do was move my toes. That's the only movement I had.
Now we're just excited. There's all the fear leaves at this moment. And now you're just pressing in further. Like, God, you're not done yet. You're not a God of partial healing. You're a God of full healing. And we pursued full healing. And we're excited and teary-eyed, and it just feels good. The atmosphere around that aisle was changing. Trying to not be offensive, I was like, hey, do you want to try to stand up?
I went ahead and stood up, and then it actually happened, and then my sister was amazed. We were all blown away.
And it felt almost like when you're at the beach and a wave crashes over you, all of a sudden this presence comes up, and it just swept, I believe, all three of us away. The girl and the guy crying. I'm crying but half laughing. It's the awkward in-between phase. And then we started hugging, we started embracing each other. God had just showed up, tears on each other's shoulders, and we exchanged phone numbers, and the guy sits back down. And then I go back to the conference, carrying a testimony, carrying a story of revival showing up in a simple everyday store.
Since then, it's been uphill since then as far as my recovery is concerned.
I learned that this guy's name is John, and it wasn't just a one-time encounter that we shared in that store. We developed a relationship. We developed a friendship. I started to visit him during his stay at the spinal center, started to press into breakthrough with him. We started to just become friends. Now we're even hanging out.
We call it getting into trouble. We would go and find people and then pray for them, and it's been really wonderful. I've seen a lot happen in other people's lives.
He's plugged in around local churches, I'm plugged in around the local churches, and his one goal was to always play soccer again, but the injury was going to stop him from that.
Now here I am playing soccer again. This is a gift from Drew and his church. This is the 2010 South African match ball, and then that gift, it's almost like it came from God, and he's just telling me, Jean, go out and in the field and run and play and do what you usually do. And because I've saved you and I have given you your legs back.
God is so powerful and he's so good. And that in a world where hope seems to be lost, he can pick someone like me, an ordinary guy, the same as he can take someone like you who feels like you're an ordinary person, and infuse hope into what you carry, into what you bring to the world, what you have to offer. And we can see stuff like this be the greater things of God, the deaf, the blind, the lame, the poor, the sick. And we can see God use us personally to change the world.
A world where hope is lost, and he can use us to change the world. It's an ordinary guy. Miracles.
Yeah, you know, it just reminded me, remember the Jesus movement in the early 70s? When young people like this young guy were just filled with faith as they came to Christ and read the Word, and then went out, believed what the Word said, and God used it.
Oh, it's beautiful. What a beautiful testimony. Okay, here's some others. Michael, who lives in Tampa, Florida, was in a bad automobile accident in which he suffered a broken right hip. The doctors put the hip back together using pins, but told him he would need a hip replacement within 2 years. Since Michael declined surgery, he developed painful osteoarthritis. One day he was watching this program, he heard Terry give a word, "You have a deteriorating right hip bone." You didn't know Michael in Tampa, Florida?
No.
Obviously not. Okay. God is healing and restoring the bone. Michael turned to his wife and said, "That's me." He jumped up, started running around the living room, had no pain since. Praise
That's
God.
awesome.
All right.
Well, here's one. This is Colleen. She lives in Portland, Oregon. She developed a terrible sore throat and a cough. The doctor said it was a virus and told her to take over-the-counter medications. But a month later, she was still in such agony from her coughing and pain that she went to the emergency room where they found open sores on her throat. The next day, she was watching this program. Pat, she heard you say, "You have terrible coughing. It's making you violently sick." She coughed one more time, immediately started feeling better. She hasn't had a bit of trouble since then.
God is good. Now listen, wherever you are, let's trust God. Terry and I are going to join hands. We're going to pray together. And we're going to believe God for you, and you believe God for yourself and for others. And we'll join with us right now. Father, I join with my dear sister in Christ. And we ask, Lord, right now, for the anointing of your Holy Spirit to come into the hearts and minds of people right now, into their bodies and into every part of their being. In the name of Jesus, receive an answer. There's somebody that has something, it's like an ulcer somehow. It's not an ulcer, but it's something inside your abdominal area that's causing bleeding and painful problems. And right now, you'll feel like burning fire in that part of your body, and you are healed. Terry.
There's someone else here. After trying for a long time, you're pregnant with a child, and you are so fearful that something's wrong with this baby. Just that spirit of fear is gone now in Jesus' name, and you are going to enjoy the rest of this pregnancy and deliver a perfectly healthy baby.
One of your knuckles, or a couple of your knuckles, somehow you've hit something or mashed something, but they're all swollen and sort of arthritic. Just put your hand, your good hand, on the hand that's got those swollen knuckles, and we believe God right now, complete healing in Jesus' name. Terry?
Someone else, you have some kind of an infection on the bottom of your foot. I don't know if you stepped on something or you were bitten by something, but it's gotten considerably worse, and it's really affected your ability to walk well, but there's deep infection in there. God's healing that for you right now. It's just going to go away very quickly.
Somebody has a tick. You've got a nervous tick. Your head jumps back and forth on this thing, and right now, God is just bringing his power to work. It's like the hand of Jesus on your head right now. And you are being healed. You will be absolutely whole from this moment on.
And someone, you've been diagnosed with bone cancer and you feel so desperate and so alone. God's healing your cancer in Jesus' name.
Now for others in this audience, whatever your needs, may the anointing power of the Holy Spirit touch you. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Call, give us a word of what God's done in your life. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. And listen, the number's toll free. If you need further prayer, there are folks on the phones right now who'd be delighted to pray with you.
Well, still ahead, he's been called a modern-day William Wilberforce because of his work to end human trafficking. Now Zach Hunter is on a new mission, and we'll tell you what it is. That's later on today's show. But before that, we want to answer your email questions. Edward says, we had a Labrador retriever that got very sick. I prayed day and night for his healing, but we had to put him to sleep. What did I do wrong? Stay tuned for Bring It On. That's next.
For the rest of my life, I'm going to have to live with this condition. They were starting to pray for people, and that'd be really cool if that happened to me. But no way, like, the show is too big. There's so many people watching, and they started talking about how there's someone out there with a foot problem.
You have a condition with the arches of your feet. God is healing that for you right now.
Put one foot on the ground, then the other. No pain. Nothing.
Did your magic phone service promise you everything but come up empty? Sign up for Basic Talk. Unlimited calling for only $9.99 a month with no annual contract. It's a home phone service you can count on. It's not magic, it's Basic Talk. Call, click, or go to Walmart today.
Welcome back to the 700 Club. Promise Keepers founder Bill McCartney rallied Detroit's Christian leaders to help their struggling city. More than 50 pastors heard from the former college football coach and others, including former Muslim Brotherhood terrorists. He told them radical Islamists began working to weaken and divide the city racially in the 1960s. McCartney and PK President Dr. Raleigh Washington, though, say the pastors can lead the city's recovery. Operation Blessing is preparing to open a fish processing facility in Haiti. It's on the grounds of the Zanmi Beni Children's Home and will complement OB's fish farm and hatchery. Last year alone, the hatchery harvested 50,000 pounds of tilapia. The fish processing facility is equipped with air-conditioned, an ice machine, and a grinder that will turn it into a high-powered, no-smell liquid fertilizer. Employees will also break down the fish into sushi-grade, made-in-Haiti fresh tilapia. Fascinating. And you can find out more about what Operation Blessing is doing by going to its website at ob.org. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club after this.
Medical emergencies.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm calling for help right now. Sharon, we received a smoke signal coming from your kitchen. Get out now. We're calling the fire department.
Home invasion. Emergencies away from home.
I'm trying to get to my car, but it's still a ways away.
I'm right here and we'll stay on the line with you and we can contact the police if necessary.
And you can have this protection away from home for just $19.95 per month.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-498-8401. That's 1-800-498-8401. Call now at 1-800-498-8401 to get a free brochure. 1-800-498-8401. 1-800-498-8401.
Monday. Threatened with jail.
2 consecutive 6-month terms in prison.
And you'll never believe why. And then, a cop who fought her way to the top.
Failure was not going to be an option.
And made a couple of enemies along the way.
And they used that against me.
Plus, financial guru Clark Howard shares how to live large for the long haul. Monday on the 700 Club.
Well, it's time to answer some of your email questions during our Bring It On segment today. Pat, this first one is from Edward, who says, we had a male Labrador retriever that was almost 13 years old. He had a tumor in his mouth and he had a hard time walking. I prayed day and night for his healing. He got so bad we had to put him to sleep. I'm not sure why my prayer didn't get answered, but I didn't question God. I said that his wisdom is greater than mine. I don't understand, but I trust God. Where did I go wrong?
The reason you went wrong is you multiply by 7 a dog's life.
91.
91 years old. So if you've got an old guy around, he's 91 years old, and you pray, oh God, raise him up. I mean, come on, it's time for him to die. And it was time for that dog to die. So how did you go wrong? Well, you just were praying for the wrong thing, that's all. Yeah. And I mean, you were fighting nature.
Is that true in dog that I mean, what we're talking about is that it's said that dogs are 7, you multiply 7 times
that's
what
right.
their lifespan is.
To get the human equivalent of the horse is 3. So horses, they don't.
Horses are what?
Times 3.
Times 3,
so
really?
A horse maybe lived as long as 30, so he'd be like 90.
Wow.
So that, but the dogs, I mean, that's the way it is. So how'd you go wrong? You did wrong. You prayed for the wrong thing. You know, People love their dogs. I prayed for a little dog one time. It was a mixed breed. We called him Mighty Mutt. And the Lord healed him. That dog looked at me and it was just so amazing. You know, Mighty Mutt.
Did he have a cape?
He could have. He was the nicest dog, but he was an absolute mutt. And yet, I mean,
the mutts are the nicest dogs.
God healed him. I mean, he just looked at me like he felt the power of God.
Yeah.
But he was a young dog. And then he later died. He had heartworms. So, you know, dogs die.
They do, as do the rest of us, yes. Okay, this is very unusual, Pat. This is from John, who says, my dad's senior pastor doesn't like me and threw me out of his moving car on the same day my dad had major surgery. Years later, when I had to talk to this pastor for help getting my paralyzed father to see his dying mother, this pastor threatened me again. He said that he had the right to do so because, quote, Jesus took a whip to the people in the temple. I reported this to the church secretary, who told me she would let the leadership know, and they never contacted me to resolve the issue. Does forgiveness and turning the other cheek mean that I'm not supposed to call the police and press charges?
For turning the other cheek is fine, but if somebody throws a teenager out of a moving car, that is deadly assault.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a crime.
However, he then says here, years later, when I had to talk to him, so he's waited really.
Well,
I mean, I
that
don't
old man
know.
should have never been allowed in a church. He's got issues that are
Big issues, yeah.
But to throw a kid out of a car, moving car,
yeah.
And then talk about Jesus with a whip in the temple. I mean, how distorted can it get? That makes me sick to see somebody like that.
Me too.
But the church should have dealt with him. And it's a little late now, but what you do, you go to see the guy, take somebody with you, and if he won't receive it, then take it to the church. But that thing should have been made public. That's a terrible thing for somebody in a church office. He's supposed to be a tender, loving pastor.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, this is Giselle, who says, I'm a committed Christian and an internet marketing consultant and trainer. Business has been very slow this past month, but I believe that next month will be better. I'm coming across many New Age metaphysical practitioners who want my services, and I am torn. I can't afford to turn away business like I have in the past. I can help them by setting up websites and training them without actually marketing their services, keeping everything technical. Should I be open with them and tell them I'm a Christian and don't believe in what they practice? Do I turn them away? What do I do?
You are helping them market their services. Even if you don't get out there and do it, you're
setting them up.
You're setting them up for a good-looking website which will attract people to that stuff. You are participating in that, and you shouldn't do it. And don't tell me that the Lord isn't good enough to give you business, that you always have to take witches and Wiccans and people like that. That's nonsense. You know, God will give you other business, but you need to say no. And if you can't say no to this, then go do something else. All right.
This is Zoe, who says, is it wrong for a Christian to practice yoga if they're strictly doing yoga for the exercise?
Yoga exercises are very beneficial. They are stretching exercises. They're deep breathing exercises. But if you have to say some kind of a mantra, then you're praying in Sanskrit to some Hindu god, and that's the part you don't want to get involved in. The yoga has a relationship of spiritual along with the physical. But in terms of stretching exercises, you know, there's nothing wrong with stretching, and that's what it is. Just don't get into the
whole spiritual end of it.
The Sanskrit mantra like you got to do. Don't let that happen to you. The others, I see nothing wrong with it. It's an exercise. All right.
Okay, this is Vic, who says, my wife, who was a widow of 6 years before we met, and I are divorcing. We've only been married for 2 years, but she's still devoted to her deceased spouse. Could her devotion to her former spouse be a stronghold? I don't want a divorce. I'm committed. We separated 10 months ago and haven't had any contact. What can I do?
I think that somehow that wife never was joined to you. You know, she didn't leave her former husband. She stayed with her husband even though he's dead. And she didn't really unite with you, and she wants to leave. And, you know, if she leaves, let her leave. I wouldn't hold on to that. Is it a stronghold? I don't know whether it's a stronghold, but it's an affection and a love. And she doesn't want to give up. So her former husband's dead, and so she never, if she felt that way, she shouldn't have gotten remarried.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with being remarried, by the way. You're absolutely free to remarry if one of your spouses dies. But in this case, is it a stronghold? Who knows? But I would just...
Sounds like she's the one who left, which Vic then would be free, right?
Kiss that relationship goodbye.
Yeah.
You're better off without her. Because
because she was widowed 6 years, so if she's still feeling that way after she's now been married to you for 2 years,
she'll probably
she's got
set
a
up
problem with that.
a shrine in the bedroom and burn candles to him. You don't need that.
Yeah, exactly.
What else Terry, what's next?
Well, what would make a Buddhist monk and his entire family convert to Christianity? It all started with one little girl who couldn't walk and a mother who prayed for healing.
Ayushma was born with cerebral palsy. At 2.5 years old, she was barely able to roll over. Living in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia, there was little her family could do for her.
When Ayushma was just a baby, I took her everywhere to try to get help, to Buddhist monks and hospitals. She was diagnosed incorrectly, and life seemed so hopeless when I thought of her future.
About that time, a team of doctors from an organization called Reaching the Light traveled 12 hours by train from the capital city to their remote town. Ayushma was told she could receive free therapy at their developmental center, which is supported by Orphans Promise. The program consists of therapy at the center, teaching them exercises, and follow-up visits at the center. But the most special part of the program is that every session focuses on Jesus Christ. So each time Ayushma and her mother, Shernay, came to the center, the staff prayed for them. It was the first time they ever heard about Jesus.
I had no idea about God, but I cried out, "Are you real? Are you real? If you are real, please heal my daughter."
And then did you begin to see Ayushma improve?
Oh, yes. It was really amazing.
For the next several years, Ayushma prayed to God every day before therapy, and Shernay read a Bible that the staff had given her. When they were in the city, they attended a church near the center. Even though her father was a Buddhist monk, Shernay threw her Buddhist idols in the fire.
After I received Jesus as my Lord, everything became peaceful, and I really loved to share the gospel.
As Shernay grew in her faith, she started a Bible study. So far, 30 people have given their lives to Christ. One of them even started a home church in another village.
Sometimes people will say, "She is the daughter of a monk. How can she share about Jesus to others?" But that does not matter to me. I know he is real, and I will just keep following him.
Because of this outreach, Shernay's father became a Christian, as well as her husband, her mother, and 4 of her 5 sisters. And because of your help and God's grace, Ayushma, who once couldn't sit up on her own, is now walking. These are her first steps to a brighter future and a wonderful journey with Jesus Christ.
700 Club partners, isn't it amazing to know that you can sit in the comfort of your own home and touch the life of a little girl and an entire family in Mongolia? When I tell you they are out in the middle of nowhere, it's unbelievable, but Jesus knows where they are. That little girl is walking. Her family has come to Christ, and it happened because you cared enough to send. You know, there are people who send, there are people who go, and we want to thank you for being a sender. If you're not a 700 Club member, today's a great day to join. It's 65 cents a day, $20 a month. We're doing wonderful work like this all around the world in the name of Jesus, touching lives, bringing hope, and we want you to join us. All you have to do is go to your phone and call that toll-free number that you see on your screen, 1-800-759-0700. Say, I want to join the 700 Club, and when you do, say I want to do it using Pledge Express. Electronic monthly giving means your bank does all the work, but it saves us some processing costs so we can put even more of your gift into the lives of people like Shernay and Ayushma. So for using Pledge Express, we want to send you Power for Life teachings. You'll get one of these every month, and we think they'll be a great blessing to you. Please call now. Up next, the 21-year-old who wants to revive a 1,000-year-old code. We'll tell you why. That's coming up.
When we were first married, we struggled to make ends meet. We learned what the Bible teaches about tithing, and even though it didn't seem like we had the money, we went ahead and tried it.
As a result of it, the money went further, and now we're completely debt-free. It's so wonderful to give to CBN because you know the money is being used for what God intended. We're Don
and Phyllis Rabin,
and we give to CBN.
If you use catheters, I have some great news. You will never have to reuse catheters again. Medicare and most private insurance now cover up to $200 a month. That means you can use a new sterile catheter every time you cath. And these new catheters, they're softer, they're more gentle, and they're much easier to use. So call Comfort Medical today. They make it simple. They bill Medicare and private insurance directly. There are no upfront costs, and they deliver your supplies right to your door for free.
Call Comfort Medical now and ask for free catheter samples for men and women, free shipping, and a free comfort kit with your first order. Call 800-644-1463. That's 800-644-1463. Call Comfort Medical right now.
Call Comfort Medical today. You'll be glad you did.
Well, when he was just 12 years old, Zach Hunter read a book about Harriet Tubman. He was appalled as he learned about slavery in America and stunned when he learned that slavery was still going on in the world today. So Zach launched a campaign to end human trafficking. Loose Change to Loosen Chains has since raised nearly $1 million. And now, instead of just ending slavery, Zach's working on restoring something else.
Zach Hunter's been called a modern-day hero by CNN because of his work rescuing slaves from human trafficking. He started his efforts a decade ago at age 12. Now it's gone global. Today, Zach continues that work along with a new cause that can affect every home and family in the nation.
Well, Zach Hunter's with us now. Zach, welcome to the 700 Club.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here.
Well, you have, yes, please. You have a new focus that you've begun to talk about, write about. Slavery was a huge issue, and you've made a huge impact with that. I think a lot of people have a heart for that. Yeah. But now you've written a book called Chivalry: The Quest for a Personal Code of Honor in an Unjust World. Yes, now, how did you go from slavery to chivalry?
Well, this is my fourth book. So my first book was about freeing people from modern day slavery. I started the campaign you were talking about when I was 12. So that was 9 years ago, which makes me feel really old that it happened 9 years ago. But
4 books in 9 years isn't bad, Zach.
It's not a bad average per year. But I had basically gone through a really tough period of my own life, and I was seeing this huge inconsistency between my passion for changing the world, my compassion for people who lived halfway around the world and for the poor and the oppressed, which is very biblical. I was seeing an inconsistency between that and how I was treating my family and friends. And I realized it wasn't just me, my entire generation is really known now for caring about social justice issues and for caring about helping the poor. And even for this issue of human trafficking and modern day slavery, that there's sort of a revival of the term abolitionist nowadays. Yet there are all these people, I'm hearing from parents and from students that there's just so much less civility, so much less kindness in the world today, it seems. And I realized I had to do something about it. So that's what this book was. This book was my personal journey to trying to become a kinder person.
Talk about how you define chivalry. You're really talking about a person's character, right? Not about opening doors for women or letting someone go through a door first, although that's very gentlemanly.
Absolutely.
But this is not gender-based. This is everyone.
Of course, definitely. I mean, that is our cultural concept of chivalry is definitely very gender-based. It's male to female, as opposed to sort of a comprehensive idea or standard for ourselves and for how we should treat other people. So my definition of chivalry is based off of 10 concepts I took from a code of the knights that I found doing some research. And these are things like, I will never attack from behind, I will respect life and freedom, I will exhibit self-control and selflessness. So great ideas, but if it's just a list of rules and if it only applies to one gender, it's not that meaningful. It's a very narrow view.
Talk about how you found that. I mean, when you decided this was an issue for you personally, and then you saw that it really, you know, was beyond you, that it was really the culture at the moment. How did you get to the Knights Code from there?
Absolutely. I've always loved stories of heroes, and I've always loved mythology and legends and everything. I'm a little bit of a nerd in that respect. So I wanted to know, you know, I've learned in recent history about, or recently about the history of the Crusades and everything, and sort of this bad taste that Christianity has left in a lot of people's mouths due to historical wrongs that have been committed by people that say they share our faith, you know? So I wanted to know, were all the knights really bad, or was there some basis that they start off right and then go wrong? And it looked like that might have been the case. They had these great ideas, and I thought, if these were more than rules, if these were standards and principles that we believed, that we bought into wholeheartedly, and we let them change us, the culture would be completely different. We could change the culture by changing ourselves first.
Well, within people of faith, there's supposed to be the standards and the rules, but we've lost some of that in the body of Christ as well. You've taken these standards that you found in the Knights Code, and you've sort of juxtaposed them to the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
Talk about some of each chapter deals with one of these codes. Talk about some of the ones that really hit you the hardest, struck you the most, and how they are juxtaposed.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the chapter titled "I Will Not Fear Evil" is probably one of the most important ones to me. First, I talk about how fear. I mean, I've been a very fearful person throughout my life, and still struggle with that to some extent. And when you look in the Bible, you see that perfect love casts out all fear, you know? And so that was the first thing, that perfect love casts out all fear, and that God is love. And that was just the basis for that chapter. And then I tried to talk about what evil is, because a lot of us are willing to use the word evil or the word demonic even to talk about things that we don't understand, or about people who interpret the Bible a little bit differently, which is harmful ultimately to building the kingdom, you know? So I talk about that a little bit, and about being understanding of other people who still have the same view of Jesus that we do, but interpret things a little bit differently sometimes. So
it's really, I think, such a message for people today, because there is a sense of civility missing, certainly in our culture, but character as well. How do you hope to? You had a plan with the loose change for to loosen chains. How do you feel you can impact your generation and all of us really with this message?
Yeah, I think through the arts and through culture mostly. I mean, I was talking about this. We were talking about this back in the green room. Miss Ivory was talking about that with me. She works here, and talking about how things have to change in the media and in culture, and we need to be the most creative people. I think in that same vein, Christians need to be the most compassionate, the most patient, the kindest, the most understanding, and often we're not, you know? That's not how we're represented.
And maybe the most reflective of our own need to change things in our lives. Well, it's a wonderful book. I mean, this is a book everybody should read. Every parent should be sure that their children read it, but it's really for all of us as parents as well. It's called Chivalry, and it's available in stores nationwide. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your message.
It was an honor.
Pat, over to you.
Hey, great. Thank you, Zach. That was tremendous. You know, I'm still of the generation that opens the doors for ladies and things like that, but I guess maybe that's old-fashioned, but I like it. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Monday, we've got headline news host Clark Howard, who shares his financial advice. And today, we leave you with these words from Lamentation. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in Him, to the one who seeks Him. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.
While Mary feeds her 2 young daughters, she also helps feed needy families around the world. While Bob hands a drink out to a coworker, he helps give water to villages with new wells. And while Carl builds a house for his son's new puppy, He helps rebuild homes in disaster areas.
These people all have something in common. They're CBN partners who have joined Pledge Express. I hope you'll consider joining Pledge Express too. It's a way to simplify your own life while speeding help to others, all at the same time. There are no checks to remember or stamps to buy, and your gift goes to work faster, helping those who need it most. So join us and change the world for someone today.